Hello, good evening to all of our WCNC. Are you there?
I'm here now.
Okay. Hello, good to see you, Savannah, and to all of our viewers coming from all our various platforms. Fred Shropshire here with WCNC, joined by Savannah Levins. Savannah, you got a piece for us that I think a lot of people, anybody who works and anyone who has to file taxes is going to got like the DJ back there. So
we're really loving the countdown, the anticipation.
Yeah. Hey, this is the internet, right? So all goes. So we're talking about filing taxes and the changes that people are going to see because of the pandemic. We got stimulus checks to consider. We have unemployment benefits. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, Fred, we've been doing, this where's the money for a while now. And so when we're considering that question, where's the money, the question everyone has, especially in this past year, it's been such a struggle for so many. We're thinking about, news stories to do. And in tax season, this was a no-brainer story to do because this tax season really is going to be unlike any other because of COVID-19. So there are a lot of things that people have to take into account this year that they may not have before. By the way, we're live right now, so if anyone has questions, please feel free to type them in. We'll be able to see those live and answer them for you. So if you have questions about filing your taxes this year, please type them in and we'll try to get to them. But Fred, to your question, yeah, lots of changes this year. So we'll start with, you mentioned unemployment. A lot of people claimed unemployment this year, and it's taxable, which a lot of people know. Many people might not know it is taxable by both federal and state taxes. So when you register for unemployment, you can essentially ask that the taxes be taken out up front, or you can say, I'll pay them later, right? And a lot of people out of necessity just clicked, I'll pay them later. I don't want them deducted right now. And they're coming around to tax season and realizing that they're owing, quite a lot. Ashley Michelle calling. I'm just going to interrupt myself while I see questions so that I can grab them. Let's pull up Ashley Michelle calls right now. She says, how long is it taking to get refunds back? Ashley, let me address your question right now. The IRS is saying on average, it'll be about 21 days to get your refund back. That's if you file online. All the tax experts I've spoken with say if you file via mail, it is going to take an absurd amount of time to get it back just because of how backed up the IRS is. I mean, you're looking at people who are still waiting on the second round of stimulus checks. So if you can file online, certainly do that. The IRS is estimating about 20 days, and obviously filing is open right now. Peggy, you mentioned you haven't gotten the check. See, we're getting so many questions already, Fred. This is exactly why we're doing this story. So let me go back to the unemployment and finish my train of thought there. So a lot of people are going to end up owing money that they kind of forgot about. In the beginning when they were filing for unemployment, it was out of necessity. They've been barely making ends meet, and all of a sudden they're going to have these deductions. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe people took out the federal but didn't realize that they would also owe state taxes. So going into filing, that's something that people need to keep in mind. So let me pull up.
There's another question there about whether you got the first or second check. What happens if you didn't get either of those checks?
Great question. That's one of the most common questions I'll say that we have gotten. So if you qualify for both of these checks and you didn't get one or both of them, what you want to do when you file your taxes is apply for what's called the recovery rebate credit. And essentially what that is saying, look, I qualify for this. I didn't get my check, and it will be given to you in the form of a tax credit. Now, a few caveats with that I want to mention, and this is getting into the weeds a little bit here. First of all, the first and second stimulus checks, Fred, when they were mailed out or direct deposited, the IRS was not allowed to take debts out of that, right? So if you have outstanding child support payments, for instance, or student loan payments that are overdue, the federal government couldn't deduct that from your stimulus check. However, it can deduct it from your recovery rebate credit, which is kind of a not so great situation for a lot of people, because if they had gotten the check the correct way, if the IRS had been timely with that, they wouldn't have had those deductions. But people who are applying for the recovery rebate credit, if they have outstanding federal debts, it is possible the IRS may deduct those debts from your recovery rebate credit. But that's the best way to get your money, and the fastest way to get your money over, for instance, requesting a payment trace through the IRS, or trying to call the IRS, which I'm sure all the people commenting that they didn't get their checks know is just not the way to go. This is the way to go if you haven't gotten one or both checks. And I should also mention the thing with the recovery rebate credit. There are also circumstances where people who maybe didn't qualify because, it was based on 2019 tax returns, people who didn't qualify then might qualify this year. So if you file in 2020, like say you lost a job or you had a decrease in income, so you didn't qualify for that stimulus check based on the 2019 return, but you would have in 2020, you can request that recovery rebate credit in 2020. And even though you didn't qualify before, you can get that money. This also applies to people like adult dependents, college students, for example, didn't get a check before. If they file independently this year, they can claim that recovery rebate credit. And again, a lot of people are asking exactly how that comes, and it's just a tax credit. And it's honestly, a lot of people I've talked to, Fred, we talked about the unemployment and people ending up having to owe on that. A lot of people, that recovery rebate credit was kind of a saving grace because it offset a lot of those taxes they had to pay on unemployment.
Yeah, there's so many questions here that I see people within the chat answering one another's questions. I'm wondering too, there are, with all of these changes, based on, I know what you've seen from experts, the IRS just kind of expects us to know these things, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly, so, again, this story tonight that I hope people can catch is airing tonight at 11 on our air, and we get into this, and that's funny you say that, because that's exactly what I asked these tax experts that I interview. I said, what does the IRS just expect people to know this? Because this is kind of complicated. I've been working on this story for weeks and I'm barely wrapping my head around it. I mean, you shouldn't have to be a tax expert to know how to get every penny. That's why we're doing this story. But really what they said is, frankly, the IRS isn't going to hold your hand through this. It's very complicated this year. There's a lot of extra, little things and a lot of changes, and they expect you to do your research and figure it out. And so on the one hand, they also said, if you need your refund quickly, it's smart to file quickly. On the other hand, they're saying, really take your time, though. If you're filing, don't be too eager. Make sure you're getting every cent you deserve. I'm looking at these questions right now. The IRS is way backed up, says Pete Cole as a reply. And that's so true. That's what I said in the beginning of this live stream. That's why tax experts are recommending you file online. They said if you file via mail, it could take a very long time to get your refund back. So Sheila Jones, so you're telling me if I owe, they're taking my stimulus. So Sheila, to answer that question, she says, so you're telling me if I owe, they're taking my stimulus. Your stimulus check, if you got it the right way, one or both of those checks, if you got it via mail, direct deposit, no one can touch that. It's safe in your bank account. Don't worry about that. This applies to people who didn't get their stimulus check for whatever reason and are having to apply for the recovery rebate credit via taxes. That, unfortunately, a little loophole does allow the IRS to deduct federal debts from that.
Yeah, so just to kind of reiterate what you said, if you get the refund, or if you get, I should say, if you get the stimulus check, that's money that they're already going to give you. It's owed to you. But if you have to claim the rebate, then they can deduct from the rebate if you owe taxes, correct?
Right, which kind of stinks because the people who are applying for the rebate are the people who didn't get their stimulus check because of mostly the fault of the IRS in most cases.
Probably need it more.
Yeah, and they're the ones who are gonna, have to be susceptible to the IRS potentially taking money out. But those who have already gotten their stimulus checks, you don't have to worry about that. I don't want to scare people and think that the IRS is gonna dip into your bank account and take money. I want to answer Carly Lee Jones's question. If you file online, what is the projected timeline of refunds? So the IRS right now is saying about 21 days. And again, that's online. They say if you file via mail, you better be patient. So file online, and they're saying about 20 or so days. And again, filing opened February 12th, which again is later than usual, but it is open now.
There was someone who, it's deep down in the comments, was asking a question about trying to call the IRS and get a tax ID number and all that stuff. I can tell you from personal experience that I have never had any luck getting in touch with the IRS. Every time Bill McGinty does a story and he says, if you get a call from the IRS, whatever, there's kind of this inside joke going on between us because I've never been able to get anyone from the IRS on the phone. However, whenever I've hired a professional, there's actually a CPA special direct line for tax preparer, for professional tax preparer. So a professional tax preparer actually has a better time getting a hold of the IRS than one of us. From experience.
And that's a good point, Fred. If people are feeling really overwhelmed by this, hiring a tax preparer, and there are organizations that put on free, low-income taxpayer clinics. The Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, for example, does this for free, will help you with your tax questions for free. So there are those resources available. But to your point, contacting the IRS, you're so right. We split our defenders when we started this Where's the Money, into different subsects so we could really tackle. And so we had, a few of us working on unemployment, and they said, Savannah, work on the stimulus stuff, work on the IRS. And I learned very quickly that it is impossible to get in touch with the IRS for me. So forget the average American, So, and I get that frustration for a lot of people. So going into this, this is one of the reasons we're doing this story again, is because people need to know these things. They need to know their rights. They need to know what's accessible to them. And to that question earlier that you called up about people looking for their tax ID. So those who filed for unemployment, the unemployment website will have those forms for you. So if you're looking for certain forms that you can't really find, go on the unemployment website if they're related to that. Check that out. Those will be there. They should also be emailed to you, I believe. NCDES sends an email and says, here are your forms, download them. And, most, like TurboTax, for example, has a free version. That's what I used. And I was just able to upload all my stuff directly from the site. They make it really pretty easy.
They really do.
Yeah. And Pete McColl says the problem is IRS is way backed up, even for preparers. That's so right.
That is a fact. I know that personally too.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we were saying. Like some people still haven't gotten their second stimulus checks. They're still waiting on that. I mean, they waited months to get that in the mail. So Kara, I want to answer that question. Are the stimulus checks taxed? This is a question that's coming up a lot. I want to be very clear. If you got your stimulus checks already the correct way, no, they're sitting in your bank account. You're good with that. The only way you might have money deducted from your stimulus is if you have to apply for the recovery rebate credit, like if you didn't get your stimulus check for some reason. Let me see. Detra Darlene, how can they take money that's already yours from you? IRS is overpaying people by accident. Yeah, so they're talking about how can you take money that's already yours. I assume she might be speaking about the recovery rebate credit and the IRS's ability to deduct federal debts from that. That's a good question. It's a big debate right now. It's just a loophole in the law. It's just the way the law is written. But of course, a lot of people are saying certainly not fair.
Yeah. Before I let you go, once again, mention the Facebook Live that you're going to do where you have an expert on. When is that?
Yes. I am an expert only through my endless research and answering emails the past few weeks. But tomorrow at 4, I believe exactly 4:15. So mark your calendars, everyone who's watching right now. We've got like 150 people watching right now. We've got all these questions coming in. We are having tax experts on with us. So they will answer your specific questions. You can put in, your specific situation and we will get it answered from the experts totally for free. This is all for our viewers, for your benefit. You know, we know this is complicated. We know this is confusing. We want you to get every cent you deserve. This year is complicated. It's tricky. Tax preparers are backed up. The IRS is backed up. We want to make sure that all of our viewers have resources to get their questions answered quickly. So tomorrow, 4 p.m., join us back here on Facebook Live. We're going to have the experts with us. We'll answer all your questions. We'll be on here as long as it takes to make sure that people get the information they need, Fred.
All right, but before that, we have your story airing tonight at 11. Our Where's the Money story tonight in our 11 o'clock newscast. Savannah's going to kind of unpack these ideas and these little nuggets that everyone needs to know who's filing taxes. And obviously, a lot of people will be interested in this because I've never seen questions fly like this before on one of these chats that we have on our platform. Savannah, thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you all for joining us again tonight at 11. Savannah Levin's Where's the Money? Filing your taxes in this COVID world with all of these various things we have to work with these days. Thank you, guys.